Hello, everyone. My name is Brendan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. And welcome to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. Today, I'd like to talk about love. Yes, you heard me right. Love. Particularly how it pertains to Star Wars. Let me begin by saying that on Saturday, I listened to the podcast of Madison Thames, who I've mentioned before, who I highly recommend you follow on YouTube at Maddie, M-A-D-I hyphen solo, S-L-O, S-O-L-O. The reason I mention her is she is very positive and optimistic about Star Wars and brings up some really good points, and I often find myself listening to her podcast saying, wow, I never thought of that. And yet again, this weekend she mentioned something that I had not thought of. Now, we've talked here on my podcast about the Reylo idea. The idea of a romance between Kylo Ren and Rey. And I've given you my feelings on that. But Madison mentioned something very interesting. She said, what if Anakin and Padme's love destroyed the galaxy? Maybe Kylo Ren and Rey's love saves the galaxy, bringing it kind of full circle and being kind of an opposite of what happened with Anakin and Padme. That, I thought, was a brilliant idea. Now, I'm not necessarily in favor of Reylo, but that particular idea is a very interesting one. Now, I think that there's a good chance that a bit of Reylo might happen. But this is contingent on a couple of things. Number one is the question on everyone's mind. Is Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo, redeemed? I think the redemption, or Bendemption as we like to call it, is highly likely. Number two, does Ben Solo survive the Rise of Skywalker? Does he survive this movie? Ooh, that one, I am inclined to believe that he will not. Now, their love can still exist, even in the absence of these things. Now, it is likely that if there is a romance, then Ben Solo will be redeemed. Now, let me just back up a little and say, if it ends up being a love story between Kylo Ren and Rey, does this mean that he needs to be redeemed in order for this to happen? Well, it would be kind of hard for them to have a romance if he was still evil. You know, unless Rey turns evil, but I doubt they're going to do that in this film. I don't think they want to end on that kind of a note. But I believe that if he is redeemed, then a romance will probably happen. Now, the romance wouldn't really be much of a romance if he dies, because then it would kind of end on a very tragic note for their love story, and that I just don't think would be in keeping with the direction they want to go. So I'm not sure how likely the romance is, but for argument's sake, let's say it does happen. Does their love save the galaxy? Yeah, I think. I think that's a good possibility. That if there's a romance, that romance might be what saves the day. And, you never know. And it would be very interesting if it were the opposite of what happened with Anakin and Padme. Anakin and Padme's love destroyed the galaxy, not because their love was bad, but because Anakin Skywalker was willing to do anything for Padme, including go down a path in search of forbidden knowledge, and knowledge that went directly against the Jedi, and was also knowledge given to him by a Dark Lord of the Sith. So it definitely impaired his judgment. That brings me to the next idea. And people have asked this. Why are the Jedi not allowed to be in relationships? What is the reason behind that? Well, here's how I look at it. I think the Jedi were incorrect in establishing this policy. I think the Jedi Order made a mistake forbidding romance. However, I think they had a point. We all know love, or what we sometimes mistakenly perceive as love, can lead us to do really dumb things. But it can also lead us to do great things. This is the dichotomy of romance. Let's look at how it applies in Star Wars. We see the downside of romance, the problems that romance can lead to, the side of romance that can lead us to do dumb things. We see that play out with Anakin embracing the dark side and becoming Palpatine's apprentice. They're right there. It's one of the things that the Jedi had a legitimate thing to be concerned about, for legitimate reason. But on the flip side, love saved the galaxy when Luke Skywalker's love for his father allowed Anakin Skywalker to be redeemed and fulfill his destiny. There right there is the advantage of love. True, this is father to son love and not romantic love. But nonetheless, the attachment that the Jedi cautioned against was there and ended up saving the galaxy. So I believe that the Jedi Order had the right idea, but were incorrect. But you can see why they were worried, because that played out, their fears were played out with Anakin's poor decision-making because of his love for Padme. So love is a dichotomy. Love can bring good things, love can bring bad things. But it is very ironic that the very thing the Jedi cautioned against ended up saving them. That's some interesting thoughts there. And then the last point I wanted to bring up is, in what way would Kylo Ren and Rey's love save the galaxy? Well, I get the feeling, and this is just a guess, I have no way of knowing, something is going to happen in the First Order. And there's going to be a split. And it is entirely possible that Kylo Ren basically is exiled or exiles himself for the First Order and goes and teams up with our heroes. A bold prediction, but I get a feeling General Hux is going to make some kind of power play that's going to cause a split in the First Order, and Kylo Ren's going to need our heroes to help him do something. And maybe on this journey where he teams up with our heroes, if this happens, the romance comes out. Just a guess. And maybe Kylo Ren will eventually be on the edge of making another really bad decision. But his love for Rey will bring the good in him, the Ben Solo in him, to make the right decision and do things that ultimately save the galaxy. And maybe he doesn't die. Maybe they live happily ever after. There are so many possibilities, but I believe that it is entirely likely that a romance does occur between the two of them. Now, all these things are mere speculations. Hashtag speculate responsibly. I'm going to put these expectations aside when I walk into that movie theater. And I'm going to leave that at the door and just enjoy the movie for what it is. If I don't like it, I don't like it. If I do like it, I do like it. If I, and some of the things that happen in it, hopefully are going to be big surprises. But anyhow, I thought I would share my thoughts with you on love in the Star Wars galaxy and how it can lead to good things and lead to bad things. But when everyone's heads are screwed on right, love can be the greatest force for good in our universe and in the Star Wars universe. Thank you so much for tuning in to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.